key moments that kind of influenced me to ever pick up a pen and become a rapper, right? So a little bit of backstory, man. My name's DOLLAWATER. I'm a hip hop artist from Orlando. I currently stay in Houston, Texas, and I travel the USA on 18 wheels, big truck driver, as you can see. I've been rapping since 2011. It's like the first time I put pen to pad, recorded on the mic, right? Started off as part of a group. We called ourselves Foley DeVille for a minute, changed our names to the Crew, did that for about 2 years, became my own artist under the name Just Marks. Released an EP in 2014 called Room for Cream. I released a second EP called Golden Grams in 2016, and I released my first album called Proof of Funds in 2024, right? That's just the slight backstory on what's going on with your man. These are like dope moments too to like really get you guys to know me a little bit better as well, because I realize I want you guys to know the man behind the streams, behind the mic, behind the freestyles, behind the content creation, and just kind of explain to you guys, because I don't get the chance to sit down with Funk Flex and Sway in the morning. Some of y'all probably don't know who they are, but I don't get those opportunities, so I'm gonna use my platform to do that. But anyway, so some key moments for me, right? Growing up in Orlando, Florida, I'm in the South, but I really consider myself like an East Coast dude. And I'm sure y'all hearing me talk probably be like, oh, okay, like you can hear it. There's certain things, that I'm from the South culturally, but for the most part, growing up in Orlando, specifically Sanford, Florida, like, yeah, I consider myself East Coast. Where I live predominantly most of my life is a very mixed race neighborhood. My household in and of itself was mixed race. My brother's mixed. I'm, as far as I know, mostly black. I've got like some other little mudded out stuff in there, but for the most part, that's what it is. A lot of my neighbors, like my immediate neighbors, Dominicans from BX, you know what I mean? But we had white, we had black, we had Hispanic, we had Asian, we had Native American, everything in my neighborhood. So I got a little mix of both, but I spent a lot of my time with my friends that were from New York, right? So let's go all the way back to the beginning. My earliest core memories of music, right? My mother, she was a singer. She sang in bands. Karaoke was her thing, right? Like if I was at home with a babysitter, because she went out to do karaoke or she's singing at something, right? Um, so obviously soul music growing up in the 90s, R&B music was heavy in the household. Not too much that I can remember by names, but there's definitely certain artists that everybody that has a black experience remembers. Teddy Pendergrass, the Gap Band, uh, Ashford and Simpson, the list goes on, all of that. But nothing that like really sticks to me, right? My mother, outside of that, is also really big on country music, right? So unsurprisingly, I got a lot of Shania Twain in the household, Tim McGraw, Garth Brooks, these types of artists too. So I got like, again, not only growing up in like this real cultural neighborhood, but like within my household, it wasn't any one thing, right? So real well-rounded experience overall. But on the hip hop side, my earliest memories are Bone Thugs and Harmony, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Tupac, right? And again, I don't remember everything vividly, but the first thing that I can vividly remember is All Eyes on Me. So this is like my early, like, who is this? What's the name of the album? What's the name of the songs? Where are the credits? Where are the lyrics? Like, All Eyes on Me is like my first real sitting down, dissecting an album. That's it, right? Life Goes On. I used to be in the back seat, 5, 6 years old. Alcohol and booty call. I ain't know what I was saying. I just thought the word booty was funny. Wonder Why They Call You B, songs like that. Like things that like you shouldn't know. Like these are my earliest core memories. Like I remember hearing that he passed away and being upset about that. You know what I mean? I was old enough at that point to where like, okay, memories are starting to, you know what I mean? This isn't an album that I feel like, as an artist really shaped me per se, but definitely something that I remember. And it was a big part of my childhood. Tupac, probably until the first time I heard Eminem, was my favorite rapper. There was really no change in that. Me Against the World is still one of my favorite albums of all time. Like my love for Tupac has never changed, right? So that's like the start of my love for this game we call hip hop, right? My second real core memory, as it relates to hip hop anyway, is Will Smith Big Willie Style. Now, this album was All Eyes on Me was an album my mama had. My cousin T, I believe, is the one that I got the Big Willie Style album from, right? So on this album, I'm now getting a complete 180 from what I knew with Tupac, which was Alizé, Hennessy, Cristal, weed, all of these things. It's hard. It has, some nurturing moments, some positive moments, but for the most part, it's something that, like, yeah, probably me at 5, 6 years old, I probably shouldn't be listening to this stuff. Big Willie style, on the other hand, is a complete 180 from that, right? So here's where I get the more polished music, the na 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 na, just the two of us, Candy, all good, Chasing Forever. Like, these songs are like burned in my memory. It's not an album that I really go back to. Will Smith isn't somebody that really I identify with, but all that to say, it was very pivotal for me to hear that and, like, wow, okay, it doesn't need to sound like this. It can also sound like this. I love that album a whole lot, right? Uh, Next for me, TLC, Fan Mail. R&B project for the most part, but Left Eye, she was doing something special on that album, right? At this point, maybe I've heard a couple Lil Kim songs, but for the most part, I don't really know too much about women in hip hop, right? Maybe I heard a couple Queen Latifah songs even, but Left Eye is like, what in the world? Like, the way she was putting words together almost reminded me of Pop. And I feel like, had she survived and Pop survived, like those two, oh my God, the energy that them two had, if they would have been able to, lock in, would have changed some stuff. Cause I feel like, she was kind of learning from the teachings of Dr. Sabi, and like Tupac was working on uniting the coast and doing all of this. Like, man, music would be in a much different spot. Um, but it was a raps on, songs like No Scrubs. And then I think there was like a song called I'm Good at Being Bad, which was like the first time I was like, oh wow, like I had never heard women rap like that. You know what I mean? She was like, I need a real nigga. Like, I was like, whoa. Um, Man, that album was pivotal for me. And it was my first real crush. You know what I mean? I was probably at this point in fan mail, I want to say dropped like maybe 99 or something like that. So it's like the first time, like, I ain't gonna lie, I was always fast, as they say as a kid. But Left Eye's like the first time I remember like having a crush on a celebrity. You know what I mean? Like, I was infatuated with her, right? Now I'm about to get into when I really started paying attention to music, right? So outside of like just what was accessible to me, like when I actually started seeking out music, listening to the radio on my own, not somebody playing something on the radio and I'm picking up on it, but like me actually turning it on with intent. First song that changed the game for me, Outkast, Miss Jackson. That song did something to me that has only happened to me a few times since then. The first time I heard this, first off, the sounds that they're choosing to use in this is not even something to this day. Like, Organized Noise, for what they did, and is coincidental. Fan Mail and then Outkast. They have that common link in Organized Noise because I believe they produced Waterfalls. Um, yeah, the production on that song was just stupid, bro. Like, there's a lot of sounds I just never heard. I don't know if it's a banjo, whatever's going on with the little, wedding sample and stuff like that. But it was just a lot that I hadn't heard. Bit Boy has a huge influence on me. I recognize Andre's probably the more respected rapper, but Big Boy is one of my biggest influences. And if for no other reason, it's the way that he puts words together. It was like my first introduction. I don't know if Big Boy necessarily counts as a chopper, but like, y'all understand it. Like, the dude rap fast. Nigga, the way she treat me. Like, he has a very fast flow that, like, I don't see a lot of people replicating even to this day, especially from the cats that's like from the greater Atlanta area, right? So that part got me. And then Andre and his eccentric self just doing all of these things I just like never really heard. I missed the whole era of like Arrested Development and them type. I had missed Tribe, all that. I missed all that. So Andre was really like my first exposure to like, oh wow, like rappers can be like wacky, eccentric. There was Missy Elliott and stuff, but I didn't really understand what I was hearing. Andre was like the first time I remember like, oh wow, like this is different. Me and your daughter. I love this song. Miss Jackson was like the first time I was like, oh. And then from that moment on, I was glued to the radio, right? Similarly, around the same time, it or should have been around the same time, Jay-Z Give It To Me was also out. So those were like two songs that were around, but it was really Miss Jackson that did it for me, right? That got me like, wow, like I think I wanna be like that one day, right? But I still at this point hadn't really started trying to put words together yet. Uh Now the first song that made me look at lyrics, this is a website back in the day. It's probably still around. It's called azlyrics.com. The first song that I heard that made me go on this website and start studying lyrics, first time I heard Eminem Cleaning Out My Closet. That changed the game for me, bro. That have you ever been hated or discriminated against? Mainly what it was is he had used a lot of words I had never heard. I didn't know what discriminate meant. What is a picket sign? What are all these things? So I was like, I don't really understand what he's saying. Obviously, there's plenty of words in other songs that I hadn't heard, but like he was using a lot of them back to back to back to back. I had liked The Way I Am. That was like the first song I was like, and his flow in that, like, if y'all have never heard that song, I sit back, that, like, it's one of the nastiest flows ever. But anyway, Clean Out My Closet is the first song I was like, whoa. You know what I mean? Now he's talking about some dark stuff on this song. You know what I mean? He's dissing his moms. He's talking about doing substances on this song. And it was just, I wanted to know everything. What is Munchausen syndrome? What is all this stuff that he's rapping about? What does he mean he has skeletons in his closet? Is this murder? Like, this was like pre-rap genius. I'm trying to dissect and figure this stuff out. I'm using Google, or maybe it was Ask Jeeves at the time. I'm like, yo, what is this? What is this? What is this? I wanted to know, right? I probably told the story in other videos, but I love this song so much. I printed the lyrics out. I took them to school. I highlighted it like it was notes to study. And then I would go home and read the highlighted parts and then try to find out about it. Like I was that much of a nerd about this one particular song. It hasn't changed to this day. I don't sit down with a highlighter, but I basically do the same thing. Rap Genius, I don't even know what my IQ on there is at this point, bro, but that's my thing, right? To sit down and dissect. That's why like this whole beef that happened in 2024, that's why I loved it, because bro, I was like, oh my God, like it's so hard to find your tribe online when it comes to stuff like that. The whole world was breaking stuff down and finding different meanings. Like it was just information overload. But yeah, that song right there, Eminem Cleaning Out My Closet, was like, wow, this is different. I never looked at music the same after that. Everything was studying, studying, studying. What does this mean? Salute to him for that. This had to have been around '02, right? Now, at this point, I'm 10, 11 years old. I'm probably in like, I'm fifth grade. I was in fifth grade. I remember being at the lunch table. So this is where I kind of start flirting with the idea of writing raps, right? But nothing crazy. I think like the first rap I ever wrote when I was a kid was like, "What you see when you look at me, you probably see a young G with the sprees," like just stupid stuff. I'm trying to rap like Lil Bow Wow. I wanted to be that man so bad. 2005, Linkin Park drops their second album, Meteora, I want to say it's pronounced. Mike Shinoda was that dude. Now, there's no particular song where I was like, whoa, but it was the presence of hip hop over metal music. And I was like, now I have found what I want to do. It was listening to that album, I said, okay, yeah, I don't want to be a rapper. Before I had wrote raps, but it was that album where I said, I want to rap, right? So, and Mike did it in a different way. He had kind of like a stiffer flow, and obviously the production was different because it's like a rock hybrid metal album. But like the way that he but a little more confident, and I can't help what I'm gonna do. So it wasn't about like these heavy bars. It was more so just raw emotion. I still do that from time to time when I get songs, like EDM songs or like more rock heavy songs. Like you can hear me trying to be Mike Shinoda still to this day. Like salute to him. I think he's heavily underrated when people start talking about like when we talk about greatest rappers, it isn't always lyrical ability. It's like, yo, like the impact, bro. Like everybody that I know that was like on the alternative scene was trying to rap like this man. About a year, maybe a year and a half later, another life changing moment. Artist from Chicago, Lupe Fiasco, drops his first album, Food and Liquor. And there's a particular song on there called Hurt Me So. This is where when I heard this song, that third verse, so while the Grim Reaper sickle sharpening, anything marketing, I was like, what is what Eminem cleaning out my closet made me start studying stuff. It was like every 3 words I had to look up and research, go on. Maybe it wasn't Wikipedia at the time, but I would go online and okay, what is this? Like, who is Osama? I knew who Osama bin Laden is, but who is Barack Obama? You know what I mean? This isn't like '06 before he ran for president and stuff. Like, who are all these people? What is all this he's talking about? All the world's ills. Like, now this is the first time I wrote a rap to completion, a whole song. I still remember like 90%. It was for all the gang banging, who banging, and coat slinging, the mud slinging, and the political campaigning. You don't know who's saying the truth these days. For the young kid praying for just one. Like, I wanted to be him so bad, and you could hear it in that rap. But that was like the first time like I wrote a rap, and I was like, oh, I like this. I like what I wrote here. I still never shared my talent with nobody, never recorded or anything, but I used to always, I would keep composition notebooks within a binder, right? So if I had a history binder, inside that binder was a composition notebook, and I would write in there. So the teachers always thought I was taking notes, but really I was writing raps. And I would fill this thing repeatedly. I would just fill composition books, fill them up, fill them up, fill them up, just keep writing. Wasn't really worried about remembering stuff, trying to write like the heart. It was just like, yo, just keep putting pen to pad, which is why I be stressing to people so much, bro. Like, if you don't know anything else, just write. You don't got to be right, type, whatever it is, but just keep doing it, because I'm not somebody that like, yo, I was born to do this rap stuff. You feel me? I do genuinely believe there are people where, yo, this is your gift from God. It comes to you easy. It did not come easy for me. It took me sacrificing grades, sacrificing sleep, doing all that repeatedly every day. Hard work got me here, not talent. That song did it for me. Now we're going back to Linkin Park, because about a year or a year and a half after that, I hear this song. I still don't really know what it's called to this day. I know it as QWERTY, you know, like to keep the first few letters on that first row of the keyboard, QWERTY, but it's like Behind Your Lies by Linkin Park. And Mike Shinoda's verse on that thing, I was like, yo. I didn't think that I had a debt to pay till you came and took all I had left away. You said you didn't put me to the test today, but I was like, yo, this man is going off. You know what I mean? So we went from like super complex, conceptual, triple entendre raps to like, again, raw emotion. I'm like, yo. Now, I ain't know nobody that played in the band, but I remember being that young and I was putting ads on Craigslist like, yo, trying to start a band. I never could pull it off, obviously, because I didn't have the means to like travel to a lot of these places. Like, it still gives me chills when I hear that. You know what I mean? That's another song that really did it for me. Now where do things change, right? Because around this time is where I kind of stopped listening to hip hop. Not to say that like I fell out of love with it or anything, but I had just discovered so many other genres of music around this time that I started to kind of like branch off. So like I really, during this era, I come become a big fan of artists like, I don't know, Lily Allen, and you know, Lady Gaga was on the horizon around '08, '09. You know, she starts coming up. Maybe Stephanie Germanotta, you know, I'm listening to Duffy, Adele, Dizzy Rascal. You know, I'm starting to go international with the raps during this era. Who else was like? I had a real big pop era, so like I was big on like Britney Spears. Circus was like one of my favorite albums at the time. Like I was really trying to just get anything I could. Bullet for My Valentine, System of a Down, Godsmack, Theory of a Dead. Like it was so much music happening. Incubus, like the MTV era. Y'all know, bro. Like I was just getting everything. Let me get that. Let me get that. Let me get that. So there's like a few years where it was just like I'm just taking in everything. You know what I mean? Maybe it has an influence on how I pen to pad, I don't know. I can't trace a lot of what I do to this era, but what I will say is it like opened my mind, right? Now, at this point, I'm a 20 class of 2010 high school graduate. I go from at this time I'm living in Gainesville, Florida. So I grew up in Orlando, moved to Tallahassee for a year. That's where I got like a lot of my black experience, some core, like, yo, this is what it means to be black living in Tallahassee. Then I get to Gainesville, Florida, right? I ain't gonna say the city racist. I love Gainesville. It gave me my footing. It's where I got started with my career, right? But the way that I felt so ostracized here, bro, I I I had never I had felt it, but I found my group in certain areas, but I felt lonely as a mug at Eastside High School in Gainesville, Florida, right? So now we are locked back in. For a while, I'm kind of getting more social. I'm bringing all this music in. Da da da. Life is good. Now I'm in this like loner era, right? So in this, I'm heavy on the mixtape stuff. At this point, I done dove full into being a pothead and stuff. So naturally, when Kush and OJ drop, yeah, that's where if Miss Jackson put me on to, oh, wow, music. I like this thing. If Eminem made me study lyrics, oh, wow, he's talking about all this. If Lupe Fiasco put me on to conceptual music, having a concept, creating a story, talk about things that most people don't talk about. And then Mike Shinoda put me on to just raw emotion. Hey, we don't need all that flowery language and bars and this, that. Sometimes you just got to put it on paper. Where I heard Kush and OJ, I said, oh, this the type of rapper I want to be right here. I had never, I had heard of Wiz Khalifa, Youngin' on His Grind, Say Yeah. Like, it's like a few songs I had heard before Kush and OJ dropped. uh Burn After Rolling. I was like, oh, I remember being on Twitter and I'm like, why is Wiz Khalifa trending? Like he's not that big of an artist. This is early days of Twitter to where like, he should be. I'm like, Wiz Khalifa. Seen he dropped the tape completely. Oh my God, that was the best summer of my life. Man. That's when I started. A lot of stuff I probably can't say on YouTube for fear of like, I'm just starting. I ain't trying to do nothing to get my channel taken down. But anyway, yeah, that was one of them, right? Then I get to college, University of Florida. Go Gator. Um, whew. I walk into, I walk to campus, no intent of joining the fraternity, but I had a homie of mine who I knew from Tallahassee was like, yo, Facebook was big at the time. Put up a status. I'm trying to go see these frats. Anybody want to go with me? I'm like, I'll go with you. I'm mostly just like, kick it with my homie. We go around some of these fraternities. I'm like, this stuff kind of lame. All I knew was Kappas. And like, I'm at a PWI, these frats. I'm like, this ain't really my bag. But we go to this one fraternity, Tau Kappa Epsilon. I meet my homie Ian. This man, I had never seen in person someone freestyle before. Keep in mind, the whole time I'm listening and writing these raps and stuff, I am to myself with the headphones, sneaking in the back of class on my iPod shuffle. Like, I'm very secluded, right? I walk in and it's this white boy freestyling. And he going in like Tech Nine off the dome type stuff. Like, never go when I flow like a pro, so natural. I was like, what the? Oh, who are you? What fraternity is this? What I got to do to get in? How much money y'all need? Like, what? Yeah. I just instantly, like, yeah, that's my boy. We start a group, Foley DeVille. Blank Records. Start a whole record. Like, we think we about to just be it, right? We gonna be on the double XL in 2012. That was the goal, right? One day, I would go to the house every day. Like, go to my classes, head straight. This off campus. So, bike ride, take the bus, whatever. I go there every day after class. We writing, we listening to music, we smoking. I'm getting put on to like Nujabes, Fat John, Gangstar, like all this underground hip hop. Cause he's from Florida just like me, but from a different part. I didn't really have a whole lot of knowledge of underground. You know, I knew who Black Milk, Sean P, Pharoah Monch, a few other people from like, you know, listening to Tony Hawk and stuff like that. But like, he put me on to like, yeah, you got to know these, right? One day, you know, I would just go to his room. You know, it got to the point, you know, where you homies, you don't need to knock. I walk in his room one day, he ain't there. I hear Kool-Aid and frozen pizza. This a work of art. I ain't talking Mona Lisa. I'm like, yo, and I sat in this man room. I listened to the whole motherfucking mixtape. He come back. What are you doing in my room? I said, who is this? I completely ignored that man. Yo, who is this playing, bro? He's, oh, that's Matt Miller. You don't know? Matt Miller happens to be from the same city as Wiz Khalifa. I'm in love. I'm like, yo, what? Somebody my age rapping like this? I can't do the Wiz Khalifa stuff because I ain't lived like the whole, you know, bad boy, I'm tatted up, I got bottles of Clico, all that, you know, maybe I don't, but what Matt doing, you know, he rapping about Saturday morning cartoons. Do you mind if we smoke this blunt outside? Because it's nice out and we can get high. At this point in my life, I can identify with that. Senior skip day, I have changed my life. The mixtape Kids was what I attribute. I wanted to be a rapper, but that's what I attribute to, okay, it's time to start putting words on mic, right? I hadn't done that at this point. Or maybe I had, but nothing that like I put out. You know what I mean? It's just like you rapping around, but like that was the first time it's like, yo, we need to find a studio. I'm I'm I, I want to do this. I want to be Black Miller, basically. um Now around the same time, I might put some clips of some of them early songs in this video. I don't know. Around the same time, here come Eminem again. This time I hear some of his older stuff, right? So I'm used to the ving, 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 bitch, I'ma kill you, all that, right? Same situation, go in his room, he ain't there. I hear, my pen and paper cause a chain reaction, so get your brain relaxing. This ain't it. Yo, who is that? He said, that's Eminem. I said, no, who is this song? He said, that's Eminem. I'm like, rapping like Nas? Song called Infinite, album called Infinite. Oh man, you want to talk about that change? So now I've got like these conflicted things. It's like I want to be Lupe, want to be Wayne. Oh, I had a bar about this. I wanted to be Lupe, wanted to be Wayne. I didn't put in all the work, but I wanted all the fame or something like that. I had all these artists that I wanted to be, right? I wanted to be Matt Miller and just rap about smoking and skipping school and women and just, you know, carefree. And then I heard Infinite and it was just like, and it reminded me why I like Lupe, right? And I'm just like, yo, like information overload, bro. But I really credit that for like, hey, man, can we do both, right? Can we do the carefree party stuff in a lyrical way? And it took me about a year, right? So around like 200, end of 2011, beginning of 2012, where I finally found my footing. So all of those moments culminated into the man who eventually became DOLLAWATER, right? I would say like 2011, 2012 is when it was like, okay, like I'm a rapper now. At this point, I've done my first few shows. My first show that I ever put together, we had 100 heads at. It was the craziest thing. And I probably brought out two of them people. You know what I mean? So it was just, man, I'll do anything for like just footage of that night because it just felt like we had homies driving from hours away to come play at this show, you know, the Blank Records showcase or whatever. Like, it was the most amazing thing, bro. You know, around the same time, you know, I'm at UF, I'm going to these classes, and there's a class. I don't really remember what the class was on, but it was a dude by the name of Saint Tala, right? He was like an instructor. It's not like a formal class, you know, it's like after the classes are done, you know, people rent out rooms and it was just like, oh, okay, I'm going to all kind of events. I'm going to, you know, decriminalization events. I'm going to, you know, the LGBT events. I ain't part of that community. I'm going to everything, right? But I happen to go to this one class and he's teaching and it's like, you know, how to rap. And like, you know, I hit him up. Maybe MySpace was still around, but I think it was on Facebook. Yo, you know, I'm 18 years old. You know, I'm trying to rap, blah, 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 blah. You know, me and Ian at this point, we've put together a mixtape. It's very poor quality, but we got a mixtape. I sent it to him. He's like, yo, come out and do a show. So now I'm like, we have a mixtape out. I figured out who I want to be as an artist, but I've still not really tapped into hip hop culture, right? So at St. Talal's request, I go to perform at my first show that, like, I'm not involved in. It's nothing to do with the university, anything like that. And this is where I get like my first like real dose of hip hop, right? Because we are performing pretty much at a house party on top of a truck. So I was just like, I remember thinking like, oh, he's inviting me to a show. I'm thinking like venue is gonna be 1,000 people. You know how it is, you young, bright-eyed. And I get there, I'm like, wait, where's the stage? And he's like, that's the stage. I'm like, the truck? Like, I'm trying to put two and two together. But by the end of the night, man, I had the best night of my life at that point in my time because it was just like raw, bro. Just set up the PAs, grab the microphone, get on the truck, and it's just raw. It's just raw hip hop energy. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I like this. It's like my first time. I had done the showcase that we did before, but like it was like in a controlled environment. It's AC, slight bar, it's corporate. But this was like, nah, this is hip hop, right? And then when we did our showcase, it was like rock acts and stuff there. But yeah, I like this. I like this. I like this energy. I like the way the crowd is looking at me. I don't feel nervous up here. Oh, it's official. I ain't go by DOLLAWATER at the time. I went by JC. No, I went by Just Cash. My name is J Cash. I wanted my name to literally be Cash, just Cash. The first show I ever did, they said, hey, by the way, what's your name? I told them Cash, just Cash. I guess they heard like Bond, James Bond. So, all right, coming to the stage, we got Just Cash. I'm like, okay, that's not really what I meant, but I was like, I like that. So I go by that. Now, overthinking stuff. I'm like, okay, Just Cash is Young Cash, is this Cash, is that's Cash. I want my own identity. Like, how can I do that? I go and open the thesaurus. I was big on rhyming dictionaries and thesauruses. Thesauri? Who knows? At the time, right? What's a word for cash, dollar, money? I find the word mark. I'm like, okay, I like that. I don't want my first name to be Mark, but like, what if it's Marx? At the time, Communist Manifesto, I was like an anthropology student, so I'm kind of familiar with it. Okay, Marx, Marx, right? And I'm like, well, my name, everybody call me AJ or J. I was like, so I'll just take the last part of my initials. So I go from Just Cash to JC Marks, right? And then eventually I just combined the two and I became Just Marks. And that's the name like most people prior to me being DOLLAWATER in 2024 knew me as, Just Marks, right? So anyway, we've done the shows. I've now found my identity. I got my name. I've got a mixtape out. I've been exposed to the culture. My first hip hop show as an attendee, not a performer, is this group called Sign, CYNE. A lot of y'all that are in the underground hip hop probably know them. They have believe a song with Feather. They collaborated with Nujabes, RIP to him. Didn't know they were from the city. So it's like a Kenya and Star, I believe. Legends in the city. I have no idea. I ain't never heard of them, right? I just was like, yo, show me the hip hop. Like I was addicted at this point. Get me to the hip hop. It was them and a group called, why am I blanking on their name? Scum of the Earth. RIP to Jamie. Again, local legends. Scum of the Earth. My first hip hop show as an attendee. Only other concert I'd been to that point was Usher. True Tour 2004. Kanye West opened for him, oddly enough. Obviously, Kanye was just starting as an artist. So I saw him, I saw Consequence, I saw GLC, like that whole early good music era. But that Sign and Scum of the Earth show was where it was like, oh, wow, okay. Again, raw energy. I'm here just soaking it up. High out my mind, I had smoked a ridiculous amount of hash, like just crazy. Okay, now I've done the show, right? I've been the experience, from there. I started going to all kind of concerts. Honestly, at this point, within the next year following that, I probably saw Wale 9 times, Kendrick 2 or 3 times. I've seen J. Cole, I've seen Drake, I've seen ASAP Rocky. Like I was just like, yo, where are the shows? When are they coming to town? I've seen Currency. Oh man, like I just went crazy at this point. But yeah, this is like the origins of Dollar Water right here. You know what I mean? And I can continue to go on. I'm gonna cap it off with what Section 80 did for me. I think at that point I realized I got a lot of work to do. Everything else was just like, wow, this is cool. I want to do this. I want to do this. And then I heard that album and I was like, yeah, this is one of them ones. And I'm early on them because I'd been a fan of Kendrick probably since like '09, when Overly Dedicated drop. It was 2010 actually, but I had been a fan of his. But when I heard Session 80, I was like, oh, I'm early on somebody that's going to be the next big thing. I've got a lot of work to do. That album was probably like where I'll cap it off in this video of stuff that just changed my mind. And I think the song that did it for me was Keisha's song. I'd heard storytelling raps, but man, he had tied that song. As you go through his career, you realize a lot of his songs are related. You know, Shireen comes up multiple times, Keisha comes up multiple times, Tammy comes up in different ways multiple times. So, you know, from listening to Overly Dedicated and listening to the Heart series all the way up until like Good Kid, Mad City, when he dropped Heart Part 3, it's like, oh man, like it was overwhelming. It was intimidating, but I loved it. But those are just like the key moments that really made me the artist that I am. Maybe I'll do another video to kind of like bridge the gap. I don't want it to be too long, but just thinking about like those early memories of like, man, like what I would do to relive all of that. You know what I mean? Maybe move some money around to like get a beat machine or something, or like get an expensive microphone instead of paying all this money to record in studios and stuff. And shout out to my man Jordan Burchell. I think that's how you say his last name, because he recorded our first album 2 times, or mixtape. We recorded it once, and then I was like, I don't like it. We need to re-record it. This man did all this for free. I don't know if you out there, Jordan, but I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Ian. I want to say thank you to Chris Dolphin for creating the artwork on our first project and like really showing me a lot of alternative hip hop underground stuff. I want to thank Mike Villafranco for, yo, Blank Records. Like we're a record label, you know. I want to thank you. I want to thank Saint Tala. I want to thank DJ Rob Zilla. I'm about to go on a yap session, but I don't even care at this point. I want to shout out Mason O'Connor. I want to shout out Nostradani. I want to shout out Flame. I want to shout out Dre LeVay. I want to shout out John Q. I want to shout out Bim. I want to shout out, oh man, there's so many people I could shout out during this era, people that just made this thing so dope, bro. I want to shout out King Bada. I want to shout out DJ Addict. I want to shout out Grow Radio. Grow Radio, the Gainesville independent radio station that changed my life forever. I want to shout out Grow Radio. Shout out 1982 Bar. Shout out the Jam, Puerto Tagua, it was originally called. I want to shout out the venue. I want to shout out Club Level. I want to shout out 8 Seconds. If you from Gainesville, the Country Club, I shout them out. I want to shout out, oh, so many people, bro. Like I'm right now, I'm just having like one of the moments where I'm just reminiscing on like all the dope things that happened, you know, prior to me hitting 20, you know, all the people that were instrumental in that. Uh, I want to shout out Brianna Deco. I want to shout out LNEM. We ain't even at that point yet, but we gotta shout them boys out. They changed my life forever. Shout out to Swan, Keep It Swain, he go by now. Shout out to JC. Shout out to Pontiac Pert. Shout out to Dylan Jones. Shout out to Killer Cosby, aka Cosby What Up, aka whatever we want to call my man. Shout out fucking Danya. Shout out Matt Smith. Shout out fucking Terry. Shout out Terry, bro. Shout out Terry, man. Golly, shout out Terry. Awesome, bro. This has no point, bro. At this point, I'm done with my story and I'm just reminiscing. And I just want it out there in the universe, everybody that was like instrumental during this part. I want to shout out Saint Tila again. That's my motherfucking mentor on a real level. I want to shout out Fleetwood Boss. Oh, I'm finna tear up, bro. I'm just thinking about like all the dope moments, man. I want to shout out JCB, Jimmy Crow Blues, fucking. I want to shout out Tristan Harvey, bro. I want to shout out, oh man, California Terry. I want to shout out Nico Is. I want to shout out, man, so many people that was instrumental, bro. So many people. All my homies did one of the first showcases I was part of. If I left your name out, just know that you're important to me. It's so, you know what I mean? Y'all catch you in a raw moment right now, bro. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up there. I don't want to make this video too long, like I said. So we'll make another video kind of bridging the gap between that era and now. But those are the core artists, core songs, core albums that really shaped who I wanted to be. And there are so many stories I can tell. But we gonna leave it right there. Acid reflux is crazy. Y'all been real. I've been DOLLAWATER. Peace!